Revenge films.
My name is Michelle. Until that time, I had been living together with my husband and our daughter. We were a simple family, but I loved them, and I thought that we were living as a happy family of 3. However, one day, on the weekend, my mother-in-law suddenly barged into our house. I was wondering what was wrong, but then with intense anger, she raised her voice at me and said, "You liar! You traitor! How dare you lie to my son like that and fool him? I bet that child is somebody else's child anyway, some other man! You better hurry up and leave! Get out of my son's life immediately!" She yelled at me. This was all happening so suddenly that I couldn't even understand what she was saying or what was going on. Both my husband and I stood there in shock, but then, right at that moment, behind our backs, I heard a noise come from the kitchen. When I turned around and looked, there was a woman in the kitchen pouring tea out of my teacup and mugs. My husband and I were so distracted by my mother-in-law's intensity out of nowhere that this time we were shocked as to who this woman was, and when or how she'd gotten into the house. But then the shock didn't stop here, because it became worse when the woman opened her mouth. When we asked her what on earth she was doing in our house, the woman replied that she was going to be taking care of my husband from now on, and she started saying that that meant this kitchen was hers and she could do whatever she pleased in it. And then on top of that, she turned to me and said not to pay any mind to my husband and to her, and that I should go and be happy with her little brother. None of the words coming out of her mouth made any sense, and to make matters even creepier, she was saying that with a smile on her face. I had chills down my spine. At first, my husband also seemed shocked and confused, but at that moment it seemed that he realized, for the first time, that this woman was actually one of his former colleagues from his job.
I'm sorry, but what are you saying?
What do you mean? Isn't it obvious? It means that the day has finally come that you and I get to be together, and we get to live happily ever after together. Oh, and when we get remarried, it's already been decided that your mother is going to be living together with us. Are you kidding me? What is going on here? Why are you speaking as though my husband and I are already going to be getting divorced? You shut up! You're a dirty, cheating woman who's been betraying my son all these years. Hurry up and take that child and leave. Everything was so one-sided, and even though I still couldn't understand what was going on, I could feel the anger boiling inside of me. In order to understand the situation, I decided to take a moment to organize what was going on here. According to this woman and my mother-in-law, I was having an affair with this woman's little brother. And the woman says that my husband and her are in love. And on top of that, she said that she was currently pregnant with my husband's child. As I was organizing my thoughts, the headache was getting bigger. But as if to support this woman, my mother-in-law said that she heard her eyewitness account that she had seen her little brother coming in and out of my house and being with me multiple times. My husband took my side, and he wasn't believing anything that they said. He quickly said that there was no way that would be the case, but I was confused. It's not like there was a ghost around, so I couldn't understand what she meant that she saw a man coming in and out of my house. But right at that moment, a delivery person arrived. At that moment, my mother-in-law and the woman came out to the front door to see who it was. When the delivery person walked into the front door, he saw the woman standing behind me, and with a confused look on his face, he said,
"Wait, what is my sister doing here?"
Actually, because of my current job, it was frequent that every day, sometimes even twice a day, there would be deliveries sent to my house. And it turns out that my mother-in-law had mistook this as me having an affair with this man. Not only that, but because the delivery truck was specifically for these deliveries, and one of his colleagues was always with him, he wouldn't have had time to be having an affair with me. And more than anything, this woman's little brother had a girlfriend that he had been dating for many years, and they were actually engaged. He had told me that he was planning on marrying her next year. With that, the suspicions toward me having an affair became clear. But my mother-in-law was still raising her voice, and the worst part of all of that was that the woman was still insisting that she was pregnant with my husband's child. However, the delivery man, who was her little brother, let out a huge sigh and dropped his shoulders. He turned to his sister and said, "Are you telling huge lies like that again? What are you doing?" We were all shocked and turned to face him, and the delivery man continued to tell us something more shocking. As it turns out, this woman was famous for bragging, and that she lies just as much as she breathes. And because of that, including her little brother, she was always causing trouble to those around her. When the woman heard that, she started fighting back that she wasn't lying, that she definitely had my husband's baby inside of her and that she was pregnant. So her little brother confronted her and said that if she was so certain she was pregnant, then to tell us the expected due date. The woman yelled out, "I'm giving birth next year in November." Well, the moment she said that, everybody's jaw dropped, including my mother-in-law's. Everybody knows that a child is born in about 10 months and 10 days, but according to what this woman was saying, if it went according to her plan and calculation, it meant that she would be giving birth a year from now, and she didn't seem to think that that was strange at all. But when my mother-in-law heard this, she turned pale. According to her little brother, this woman was always telling lies like this, and this wasn't the first time that she was causing a huge commotion like this and troubling other people. But according to this lying woman, she always admired my husband when they were working together, and she had stalked him a number of times and had even followed him back to our house. And then the moment she saw that her little brother was going in and out of our house, she decided that I was having an affair with him. And then she asked one of her former colleagues that was in the administrative department for my father's mother's address, and that's how she was able to get in touch with my mother-in-law. But my mother-in-law had always looked down upon me, and once this woman came to her with the story, it all took off from there and ended up like this. The woman continued to say, "I know that I just had a little misunderstanding this time, but I know that that woman is definitely cheating on you, Michael. That's why you need to get remarried to me, and we're going to be happy together forever." She was yelling this, but her little brother grabbed her and forcefully dragged her out of our house. On the other hand, my mother-in-law tried to follow after them and sneak out of the house, but my husband stopped her and pulled her right back into the living room. And he told her that until I was willing to forgive her, that he wasn't going to let her anywhere near us or the grandchild, and to not try and contact us either. My father-in-law came to pick her up from our house and made her get down on her knees and apologize to us. Later that night, the delivery man brother must have spoken to his parents about what had happened, because their parents showed up at our front door and they also got down on their knees and apologized to us. However, I knew that there was no way that woman was going to back down or give up so easily. She had gone from only stalking my husband, now stalking the both of us around the clock. One day when my husband was leaving for work, I sent him off from the front door. Just a few seconds later, my husband had turned around and come back home. This never happened, so I asked him what was wrong, and he told me that on the corner of the block, he saw the woman trying to see him. She was trying to hide, but he said that he saw her clearly in the traffic mirror that was at the stoplight. At this point, I no longer felt anger. If anything, I was creeped out and scared. I feared for the safety of our daughter, so I decided to take refuge at my parents' house. To be honest, I was uneasy about leaving my husband alone in that house as well, but my biggest concern was our daughter, to ensure that nothing would happen to her, and so that's what we both prioritized. That upcoming weekend, my husband was going to be joining us at my parents' house, but as we were waiting for him, I got a phone call from my husband. He said that the woman had been caught by the police. To my shock, it turned out that this woman had heard that my daughter and I had gone back to my parents' house. And in the middle of the night, she broke a window and trespassed into our house. However, luckily that day, because I wasn't home, my husband's friends had invited him over for dinner and he ended up staying the night at his friend's place. As for the woman, she saw that the lights were off in the house and assumed that my husband was sleeping at home alone, and she snuck into the house. But our next-door neighbor heard the sound of the window being broken and she called the police for us. I'm so grateful to her. She really did a great job. When the police came running over, the woman started saying that she was pregnant and that she was the wife of my husband, but it was obvious that the lie was going to be ripped apart. After causing us trouble again, my husband said that the woman's parents and little brother came over once again and apologized deeply to him. They ended up paying a settlement fee, but because she had broken our property and trespassed into our house, the woman was placed behind bars. My husband said that the little brother was also apologizing a lot, but he didn't do anything wrong. And if anything, we both felt sorry for him to be stuck with a sister like that and have to be thrown around by her actions like this. For the record, after this incident, my husband and I discussed what to do about our house, and we decided that we were going to move out and move in to live with my parents at our family home. When I told my parents everything that happened this time, they told us that we were more than welcome to move in with them. Because we would be moving towns, my father said that he would ask around his network in the same industry and find an opportunity for my husband. After we moved in a little while after that, my parents said it would be okay for us to move out and live nearby, but both of my parents had a great relationship with my husband, and he seemed comfortable living with them. We've even started discussing building a new 2-family house that's attached together. For the record, as for my mother-in-law, when we told her that we were moving in with my parents, she was hugely against it.
Why are you moving out? Oh, it was you, wasn't it, Michelle? You said something unnecessary. I don't want to be separated from my son.
She was furious with me, but my husband turned to her and said, "Whose fault do you think this is?" And I had never seen him so angry. With that, his mother could no longer say anything back. To be honest, I want nothing to do with my mother-in-law ever again. And after this incident, my husband also said that he was going to cut off all ties with his mother. But that's no surprise. Not only did she make such a huge misunderstanding, she also said horrible things to our precious daughter. My mother-in-law said that it was all just a misunderstanding and that she wanted to see her granddaughter. But my husband said he has no intention of letting her see our daughter ever again. When I heard that, I was also relieved. After that, my husband was going steadily in his new job, and since we were living with my parents, we were able to save a lot on living expenses. Now that we were able to save more, we were able to go on vacations together with my parents. And life has become pretty fulfilling. Of course, they are obsessed with their granddaughter. More than anything, I'm really happy that I no longer have to see that mother-in-law ever again. After that, my mother-in-law lost her son and her granddaughter, and I heard she's crying about it, but her husband blamed her for all of this. And apparently they're getting into fights every day. But that was none of my business. According to what I had heard, my father-in-law was on the verge of leaving his wife. Thankfully, the woman that was stalking my husband doesn't know this address anymore, and hopefully we never have to see her again either. When my mother-in-law showed up with that woman I have never seen before and started blaming me of an affair and talking about a pregnancy, I didn't know what to do, but right now, I truly am happy with my life.
I was living with my wife working as a salaryman at a company. But lately, I couldn't shake the feeling that she might be cheating on me. 3 years into our marriage, my work started getting busier and I gradually became less present for her. I had noticed her growing distant around that time. I knew I wasn't blameless. I was working hard for our household, but in doing so, I neglected her. Even so, I loved her and tried my best to balance work and home life. That's why the thought of her cheating on me was so painful. My suspicions deepened one day when she went to the convenience store on her day off. While she was out, her phone rang, and I happened to find it lying around. Without thinking, I glanced at the screen. It was an incoming call from Manager Smith. My heart skipped a beat. I had heard about Manager Smith before. He was someone from her work. However, he wasn't her direct supervisor. He was a department head at a company they did business with. Would someone like that normally call her on her day off? Then one evening, I got off work early due to feeling unwell. I usually worked late, but that day I came home around 8 p.m. My wife, who should have been home by then, was nowhere to be found. If she had plans, she would typically let me know. At that moment, my suspicions turned into certainty. When she finally returned, I confronted her, and she admitted it without hesitation.
Yes, I'm sorry.
She told me that her relationship with Manager Smith had actually started a year before we got married. It began when she made a mistake at work and he covered for her. She treated him to tea as a thank you, and things escalated from there. In fact, Manager Smith was 17 years older than both me and my wife. On top of that, he had a 37-year-old wife and a 17-year-old daughter. Hearing my wife's confession, I felt an overwhelming wave of nausea.
I loved how kind and caring you were, but the manager, he's manly and has something you don't. That's why. I'm sorry.
The moment I heard those words, my love for her vanished. And to think she had been involved with him even before we got married, that was beyond disgusting. If I had known, I would have never married her. The divorce process was over in no time, and of course I made sure to get compensation from both my ex-wife and that bastard of a manager. My former in-laws were shocked to learn that she had continued the affair even after our marriage and apologized to me over and over. In the end, they cut ties with her as well, but by that point, I didn't care anymore. At the time, I was obviously devastated, but the ones who suffered the most were the manager's wife and daughter. His wife fell into depression, growing visibly frail, while his daughter completely lost it, storming into his office and exposing the affair for everyone to see. As a result, the manager was demoted and transferred to a run-down branch in the countryside. It was disappointing that he wasn't outright fired, but at least he disappeared from my sight, which was good enough for me. My ex-wife, on the other hand, lost her job and was disowned by her family. She had no choice but to follow that bastard and cling to him. 3 years passed. My wounds healed, and I was lucky enough to meet and marry a wonderful woman. Work was going well, and my new wife supported me wholeheartedly. Life was smooth sailing. One day, I was visiting my wife's grandmother. On the way, we stopped by a DIY store, and that's when I saw them. 2 people I never wanted to see again. It was my ex-wife. I had already realized after getting married that my wife's grandmother happened to live in the same area where that bastard had been transferred. But running into them today, just my luck. As I was processing the unpleasant coincidence, the manager noticed me. He grinned and walked over. "We've already paid the compensation, so there's no need to be so distant, is there?" he said smugly. Honestly, I had no desire to talk to him. I didn't even want to remember those days. But for some reason, he seemed determined to keep me there. Meanwhile, my ex-wife looked uncomfortable, tugging at his arm and saying, "Let's just go." But he didn't budge. Instead, he smirked and said, "How have you been? As you can see, I'm doing great. Work's going well, too. I'm really sorry that I ended up taking your wife, but, well, what can you do, right?" He was trying to rub it in. It was written all over his face. He wanted to bask in the feeling of superiority, convincing himself that even though he had been forced to pay compensation, he was still the one who ended up happier. This guy was the textbook definition of a prideful man. He saw everything as a competition, and as long as he was the winner, he couldn't care less about anyone else. I had sensed it even back when we discussed the divorce. Seeing me remain silent, he grew even more pleased with himself. "I'm really sorry that I ended up being the only one who found happiness," he sneered. "Or maybe, are you all alone now? Feeling lonely?" he chuckled. What a pathetic excuse for a man. I couldn't, for the life of me, understand why my ex-wife had been drawn to someone like him. Well, not that it mattered anymore. Just then, my phone rang. I took the call, conveniently cutting him off mid-sentence. When asked where I was, I replied that I was near the entrance. The bastard smirked. "A friend?" he asked, still grinning. But the moment he saw the person approaching me, his face twisted in shock. Why the hell are you here?"
What? Why are you here?
His expression contorted with rage as he turned to me, demanding an explanation. So I gave him one. "Oh, right. I suppose no one told you since your daughter cut ties with you, but we got married." I gestured toward my wife, his very own daughter. His face turned red with fury. "What the hell? I won't allow this! Why would you marry him? Break up with him right now!" But my wife simply shot him a cold stare and said,
I already cut ties with you. You have no right to tell me what to do. You are nothing to me.
Yes, after everything that happened, I had grown closer to both his ex-wife and daughter. We were all hurting, and somewhere along the way, his daughter and I developed feelings for each other. I won't lie, at first, part of me saw it as revenge. I wondered if making his daughter fall for me would be the perfect way to get back at him. But over time, that feeling completely disappeared. Before I knew it, I had fallen in love with her for real. Of course, I told her everything. She just laughed and said, "I kind of figured," before adding, "But if we fell in love, then there's nothing we can do about it, right?" As the bastard trembled with rage, another figure stepped forward from behind, my mother-in-law. The moment he saw her, his eyes widened in shock, but she, on the other hand, simply looked at him with a cold, detached expression. Even after the divorce, he still acted as if my wife and her mother were his possessions. He shouted that he wouldn't allow this, but my mother-in-law dismissed him without a second thought. "We're nothing to you anymore. It's none of your business." That didn't stop him from throwing a tantrum in the middle of the hardware store, yelling about how I had stolen his family. Stolen? What a joke. My ex-wife, on the other hand, was visibly shaken. Seeing me with my wife, who was much younger and far more beautiful, clearly hit her hard. Not surprising. 3 years had passed since then. The bastard, who had already looked like an old man back then, had only aged further into middle age. Maybe he'd let himself go after securing my ex-wife, because now his gut was bulging and his receding hairline had become even more obvious. And then came the finishing blow. My wife turned to my ex and said with a sweet smile,
Thanks to your affair, I was able to marry a truly wonderful husband. So, really? Thank you.
My ex-wife's face turned beet red. I knew my wife had said it as a playful little revenge, so I gave her a firm nod before turning my back on them and walking away. The bastard screamed behind me, "Stay away from them!" But sorry, pal, you lost the right to say that a long time ago. Later, I heard through the grapevine that his whole successful career story was a complete lie. In reality, he was isolated at work, treated like a joke by his subordinates. As for my ex-wife, she had apparently wanted kids, but given that the bastard was 17 years older than her, the chances of that happening were slim. She was miserable about it. Meanwhile, my wife's belly had begun to round. She was carrying our child. My ex-wife didn't say a word when she saw it, but I could tell she knew. The maternity dress my wife was wearing made it obvious. She must have realized, and stayed silent because she knew she could never have the same. Not long after that, I heard that the two of them had broken up. One had become a balding, overweight, middle-aged man. The other had no money and was living a pitiful, shabby life. Honestly, serves them right.
I had been living with my husband, Jake. One day, while he was back at his parents' house, he suddenly called me and told me to come over. When I arrived, I found Jake sitting next to his parents with a woman I didn't know. The moment I saw her, I had a bad feeling.
Hannah, the truth is, I've been cheating, and Monica, my mistress, is pregnant.
What? My worst fears were confirmed, but I never imagined he had gotten another woman pregnant. I was so shocked I couldn't even speak.
I know this is a lot to take in, and I'm really sorry, but I've always wanted kids, and I love Monica, so... Hannah, please divorce me.
Hannah, that's how it is, so just give him the divorce already.
His mother chimed in. I'm so sorry, but I fell in love with Jake and I ended up getting pregnant. Monica added, completely unfazed. Jake's mother, for some reason, looked pleased.
Honestly, Hannah, you were never a good match for our son. This was bound to happen sooner or later. Unlike your family, Monica's father is a high-ranking executive at a major company. She's a much better fit for us.
I was stunned by his father's words. I had always known they weren't exactly welcoming towards me, but I never imagined they looked down on me this much. It wasn't just about me. They were insulting my family, too. But before I could even process the shock, I felt something snap inside me. All right, I'll divorce you. I don't need a piece of trash like you anyway.
Great, that settles it.
Finally! I never liked this marriage from the start. Oh, everything's finally falling into place.
Not so fast. I'll be making sure both of you pay me alimony. At that, Jake's parents burst into laughter, mocking me that they think I can't afford a lawyer because I'm a poor girl who wouldn't even have the money to get legal help. But I ignored them, walked out, and went straight to file the divorce papers. The next day, as I was packing up my things, the two of them showed up, Jake and Monica.
What the hell are you still doing here? We're divorced! Stop acting all pathetic and get out already!
Jake snapped. Behind him, Monica smirked smugly, her eyes practically screaming. This house is mine now. Get lost, loser. But I calmly explained something to them, that this house was mine. They both froze, their faces screaming, "What?" That's right. This house had always been mine. Jake and I had lived here together since before we got married, but I was the owner. I sighed, watching Jake panic as he finally remembered. Of course, he never thought about it before. He was too busy imagining this house as his new love nest. Monica had turned pale, but I didn't care. I simply shoved her out of the room. Outside, I could hear Jake and Monica arguing loudly, their voices echoing through the night. After a while, the noise died down. Whew, serves them right, I thought to myself, feeling completely refreshed. A few days later, my doorbell rang repeatedly. Annoyed, I braced myself for whatever nonsense was coming this time and answered through the intercom. To my surprise, the screen showed my former father-in-law. What does he want now, I wondered, rolling my eyes. Through the intercom, I coldly asked what business he had with me. He immediately demanded to know why I had never told them that I was the granddaughter of a company president. Technically, it wasn't my father, but my grandfather who owned a major corporation. My father had chosen not to take over the family business, leaving it to my uncle, and instead pursued a career as a teacher. That's why, as far as anyone knew, I was simply the daughter of a public servant. Apparently, after Jake and his family excitedly bragged to their relatives about his new wife and child, someone in the family had set them straight. Wait, you let go of a woman from that family? Oh, what a waste! And just like that, they suddenly realized what they had lost. I scoffed at the sheer hypocrisy of it all. Now they wanted to change their tune? What a joke. This has nothing to do with you anymore, does it? We're divorced after all. Oh, and by the way, your son got kicked out and has nowhere to live. Why don't you take him in? With that, I cut off the intercom and ended the conversation. My parents had always chosen to live modestly despite my grandfather's wealth, and I had grown up the same way. Even after I shut him down, my ex-father-in-law kept ranting outside the door. I warned him that I'd call the police, and after one final grumble, he finally slinked away. A few days later, Jake showed up. Turns out Monica had believed that Jake was wealthy because he always acted like he had money to burn. She had assumed that marrying him would give her access to this house and his fortune. To seal the deal, she had lied about being pregnant, but once she found out that the house was mine and realized that Jake was actually reckless with money, she dumped him immediately. And now here he was, trying to crawl back.
Listen to me. That woman was a total scam artist. She lied about being pregnant. I was tricked. I should have never left you. Please, let's start over.
Start over. What a joke. Without saying a word, I yanked the door open. His face instantly lit up with hope until I dropped a suitcase at his feet. Here, this is the last of your stuff. The rest, I already shipped it to your parents' house. COD, of course. Goodbye. I shut the door in his face. Just like his father, Jake stood outside for a while, rambling about how he still loved me, how I was the only one for him, how we could fix things. But eventually, he slumped in defeat and walked away. After that, I told my parents everything and made it clear that I was going through with the divorce. I also asked my grandfather to introduce me to a tough divorce lawyer. Since I was his only granddaughter, he absolutely doted on me so much that within 10 minutes of our conversation, the lawyer had already arrived. With the lawyer's help, I filed claims for damages against both Jake and Monica. Monica, of course, lost her mind. She had expected to gain a house and money, yet now she was being forced to pay compensation instead. She threw a fit, demanding, "Why the hell should I have to pay? I didn't even get the house or any money." But she had already proudly declared her affair with Jake in front of everyone, so there was no way out of it. In the end, she was saddled with several $100s in debt and had to juggle multiple part-time jobs just to make the monthly payments. Jake and his parents, on the other hand, had assumed I wouldn't even be able to afford a lawyer. So when a top-tier attorney showed up, their faces turned ghostly pale, and since Jake had confessed to an affair in front of witnesses, there was no escaping the financial consequences. Completely concerned, they tried to play the sympathy card, begging and even dropping to their knees. "We were tricked. We were victims too. Please give Jake another chance. We swear he'll treat you right from now on." Yeah, as if. Not happening. Naturally, my father was furious, but my grandfather's anger was on another level. He wasn't the type to just let something like this slide. He did some digging, and after confirming what Jake had done, decided to cut all business ties with Jake's company and switch to a competitor instead. Eventually, this sent Jake's employer into a panic. Once they found out about his affair, they wasted no time demoting him, banishing him to a tiny branch office in the middle of nowhere. I have no idea if Jake was ever actually competent at his job, but I do know that once someone gets transferred there, they're never getting promoted again. He's basically stuck in career purgatory. Either he quits on his own, or he spends the rest of his life as a nobody. On top of that, with the divorce settlement hanging over his head, he couldn't afford to stay in his fancy apartment anymore. He was forced to move into a rundown, cheap apartment, living in complete poverty. As for his parents, they lost everything. Their precious daughter-in-law, their financial security, and even their reputation. To make matters worse, news of Jake's affair spread like wildfire in their neighborhood. Everyone knew they had sided with the mistress and treated me like trash. And now they were being labeled the worst kind of in-laws. They'd become so hated that they could no longer even show their faces in public. Honestly, serves them right. A month ago, I built a brand new house. Right now, it's just my husband and me living here, but since I wanted to have about 3 kids in the future, we made sure to include rooms for them as well. It turned out to be a wonderful home. Before this, we all lived in an apartment, but living in a newly built house feels completely different. Most of all, I no longer have to worry about the neighbors. In our previous apartment, the family living upstairs had 6 members, and all their kids were boys. The sound of them constantly jumping around echoed throughout the day. Of course, it's great that kids are energetic, but since I work from home, it was really tough to concentrate at times. Ever since moving into our own home, those worries have completely disappeared. Since I can work from home, I was ready to get pregnant anytime, and I was looking forward to the future. However, that peaceful life was suddenly turned upside down when my mother-in-law showed up unannounced. One day, the doorbell rang. When I checked the intercom, I saw my mother-in-law standing there. She lives alone nearby, so I assumed she had just come over to visit. But I noticed some commotion at the entrance, and when I opened the door, I was shocked to see 6 children buzzing around. Huh? What's going on? When I looked more closely, I realized they were my husband's sister's kids, 3 from each of his 2 sisters. The moment I opened the door, they all dashed into my house. Completely bewildered, I turned to my mother-in-law for an explanation. She told me that since my sisters-in-law were at work, I was supposed to watch their kids for the day. Apparently, my mother-in-law had been babysitting them since her daughters recently started struggling financially and had taken on a job themselves. She figured it would be easier if I took care of them instead. I was furious that she had decided something like this on her own, but I couldn't bring myself to say it outright to my mother-in-law. I figured that since she was the one watching them, I could tolerate it for just a day. However, the moment she stepped inside, she made herself comfortable and casually told me to make her some tea. Then she handed me a large bag full of clothes and said, "I'll leave lunch and dinner for these kids to you. Also, I brought their change of clothes, so make sure you give them a bath, too." Wait, what? How long were they planning to stay? When I realized they would be here until night, I was in shock. My sisters-in-law's kids ranged from kindergartners to elementary schoolers, and in no time, the 6 of them turned my house into complete chaos. And yet my mother-in-law didn't even try to stop them. My brand new screens were easily torn, my pristine carpet was covered in crumbs from their snacks. It was a disaster. When I finally had enough and scolded them, one of the kids started crying and ran straight to my mother-in-law, sobbing about how I had yelled at them. Then my mother-in-law snapped at me, saying, "Why are you yelling over something kids do? That's exactly why you haven't been able to have kids yet." I was completely shocked. Why did I have to put up with this? Even though I was furious, I still ended up making lunch and dinner for them and even bathing them. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law just sat there watching the Korean dramas she had subscribed to online, doing absolutely nothing to help. When my husband finally came home from work, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told him about how his mother had shown up unannounced and how the kids had wrecked the house. But instead of understanding, he just shrugged it off and said,
It's fine, they're just kids. My sisters asked for help, so what's the big deal?
I tried to explain that I wasn't just sitting around with nothing to do. I couldn't possibly take care of 6 kids on my own, but he was too tired to deal with it and dismissed my concerns. Eventually, they all left like a storm, leaving my house in a horrible state. I swore I would never go through that again. But then the following week, they showed up again, acting like it was the most natural thing in the world. This time, I refused to let them in. I firmly told my mother-in-law, "I can't do this anymore. If you want to watch them, do it yourself," and didn't open the door. That's when all 6 kids started wailing outside. To make things worse, my mother-in-law joined in, making a scene about how I wouldn't let them in. As someone who had just moved into a new house, the last thing I wanted was trouble with the neighbors. I wanted to get along with them, but with the kids screaming outside, I could already hear some of the neighbors muttering, "So noisy." I had no choice but to let them in. The moment I unlocked the door, the kids rushed in like a stampede. They immediately started rummaging through the fridge, grabbing drinks and snacks as if they owned the place. I had just cleaned up the mess they made last time, and within seconds they turned the house upside down again. I had had enough. I turned to my mother-in-law and firmly told her that this was unacceptable. But instead of listening, she snapped back. "My daughters are out there working hard for their families. They're not like you, a good-for-nothing housewife sitting around doing nothing all day. If you're so useless, the least you can do is take care of your nieces and nephews." I immediately corrected her. I wasn't some unemployed freeloader. I worked from home. I had my own income and I was doing just fine, but she refused to listen. To make things worse, that night she called my husband to complain that I had refused to let them in. The moment he got home, he confronted me, saying,
I heard you didn't let Mom and the kids in today. What the hell is wrong with you? We don't have kids of our own, so we should at least help my sisters out.
That was it. I snapped. I told him straight up his sisters had kids because they chose to, and his mother decided to take on the babysitting herself. None of that had anything to do with me, so why was I the one being forced to deal with it? But instead of understanding, he shot back.
Who do you think you have to thank for this nice house? If you don't like it, then leave!
Something inside me just broke. I felt it. Fine. I'll leave. I started packing my things, and as I did, I noticed my mother-in-law watching me with a smug expression. She had won, and she knew it. With me gone, she and the kids could come and go as they pleased. Hell, she probably wouldn't even mind if I moved out permanently. She looked at me with a sly grin and said, "Yeah, that's right. If you can't even be useful, you might as well leave." But what neither of them seemed to realize was this. This house, they were only able to live in it because I was here too. A month later, my husband contacted me, begging me to come back. Since I needed him to sign the divorce papers anyway, I decided to go back to the house one last time. What I found when I walked in was beyond ridiculous. The place was overflowing with my mother-in-law's belongings, and my sisters-in-law were there too. Apparently, the moment I left, my mother-in-law wasted no time selling her own home and moving in, as if she had always planned to. She had been letting the kids run wild, and the house was a complete disaster. The walls were covered in crayon scribbles, and everything was a mess. My husband dropped the real reason he called me. His salary had just gone through, but after all the bills were deducted, almost nothing was left. Well, obviously. Our mortgage payments had been set based on both of our incomes. Since we opted out of bonus payments, with my earnings included, everything had been fine. My husband made over $2,000 a month, so we never had issues. But now, with just his income, the car loan, utilities, and credit card payments had all hit at once, and his entire paycheck vanished in an instant. After I spelled it out for them, my husband and his mother finally understood the situation. Then, with her usual arrogance, my mother-in-law looked down at me and said,
"Well, in that case, I suppose I'll allow you to live here again."
And to top it all off, my husband actually grinned and said,
See, Mom's fine with it, so come on, just move back in. Doesn't that sound good to you?
I let out a laugh, one of those "you've got to be kidding me" kind of laughs, and shoved the green divorce papers right in his face. I said to his face that "I'm divorcing you," and then his face turned pale instantly. When he hesitated, I added, "If you don't sign, I'll get a lawyer involved and drag this out as long as necessary." Completely defeated, he slumped over and signed. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law and sisters-in-law started panicking.
"What about us? What happens to the house? Who's going to watch the kids?"
But that is not my problem. Not long after, I heard through the grapevine that my ex-husband and his family had completely run out of money, even for their daily expenses, and ended up taking out loans. But by the next month, they couldn't make any payments, and the house was repossessed. Since they had trashed the place, scribbling all over the walls and leaving it in a total ruin, the value had dropped significantly, despite it being a brand new home. As a result, my ex and his mother had no choice but to move into a rundown apartment, still stuck with a mountain of debt. As for my sisters-in-law, with me gone, the only person left to watch their kids was my mother-in-law, but of course she didn't lift a finger. So naturally, they ended up causing problems at work and got fired. Since then, my ex has been sending me pathetic emails like, "I was wrong. I realize that I need you in my life. Let's try again." I ignored every single one before finally blocking him. Honestly, he got exactly what he deserved.
Recently, I moved to this new city with my family. My mother-in-law hasn't been well, and her husband passed away long ago, so my wife wanted to live near them. My mother-in-law has been nothing but kind to me since we got married, so I had no objection. Also, my former manager happened to be from this area, and I got his reference. Luckily, I had my first interview before moving and started working there right away. The new company dealt with similar products as my previous company did, and my responsibilities were similar as well, so I got used to my position smoothly. My supervisor told me that it's rare for a new employee to be able to readily contribute to the company. Everything was going well. My colleagues were also nice, except one, Ari. He didn't like my contribution to the company. When I was creating a proposal, he came to me and said he could check it for me because I was new. He browsed a few pages and said, "It's not so great. You'd better rewrite." So I started to rewrite while he stole my ideas and brought them to the manager as if they were his creation. I confronted him about it, but he said, "Some people don't realize his incompetence and insist he thought that first," as if I stole his work. He was the worst kind. I didn't want to work with him if I had a choice, but he's been here longer and I couldn't make a formal complaint in the company I just started at. I just had to live with it. One day we had a new project in our team. To prevent Ari from messing up my work again, I never wrote a proposal before him, and I took the laptop home and worked on it at home. That worked well, and I finished without it being stolen by Ari. I was going to submit it at the end of the week, and I was doing other tasks at work, but he had to bother me somehow because he once succeeded. "Hey, my laptop is acting funny, so let me use yours." Letting him use my laptop, that's suicidal. I said no. "That laptop belongs to the company, not you. Besides, I'm your superior. It's only common sense that you do as I say." He tried to intimidate me, but I had some important work in it, and I would never hand it to him. He left at that time, but I knew he wouldn't give up so easily. At lunchtime, I stepped out to a nearby restaurant. When I came back to the office, Ari came up to me smiling. I thought he was going to make another sarcastic remark, but he had a laptop in his hand and said, "You didn't let me use it, but it's company property, so it was my call to use it." "Huh?" "Not, huh? I already borrowed it. And unfortunately, when I was using it, water spilled and it broke. Looks like the data is all gone, but it was an accident. I was almost positive that it wasn't an accident, but intentional. I took out my laptop from my bag and said, "I have mine right here." Ari was stunned and looked at those two laptops side by side closely. The laptops were identical because the company bought them, but there was our employee's name shown on the back. When I told him that, he immediately flipped it and looked at the name on the back. "Is this the manager's? How come?" He poured water over the laptop to destroy the data, but in fact it belonged to our manager. He screamed why the manager's laptop was on my desk. I'm a computer geek and I've built several computers myself. The manager heard about it and asked me to check on his laptop, which hasn't been working properly lately. The company will provide a new laptop, but transferring data, etc., some work is involved, and if it's fixable, he would prefer that route. I fixed some laptops before, so I was going to look into it with the company's permission. Then I fixed a glitch on my manager's laptop and told him. He said he'd pick it up during the lunch break if I put it on my desk. That's why it was on my desk, and I went to lunch. Ari became pale and screamed at me. I never knew about it. Then there was the manager. He asked me about his laptop, so I said the truth. Ari has it. The manager asked why Ari had it in his hand, and he couldn't say anything. Could he say that he poured water on the laptop to ruin the data? No, he couldn't think of any excuses on the spot. The manager sensed something was up and took his laptop from Ari. He noticed not only did it not turn on, but also it was soaking wet. He yelled at Ari. "What the hell happened to my laptop?" Ari said he spilled the water on it earlier, but it was more like immersed in a bucket full of water. The water was on the desk and floor, too. It was obviously deliberate, not an accident. Ari came up with an instant excuse like it was broken when he saw it, but the manager didn't buy it. It was a good time for me to tell the manager about all the harassment I had to endure from Ari, and that Ari told me to lend him my laptop earlier, and I said no. When I came back from lunch, this had happened. The manager screamed, "You're fired! Get out of here now!" Ari was nearly crying. Why is this happening to me? But he surely caused it all. How could I possibly help him after all he's done to me? On top of that, the manager's laptop had more important data on it than ours, which is gone now, so his anger was through the roof. I wished I could help the situation, but I've never repaired the one that was soaked in water. Ari was fired immediately and had to compensate for the damage. Not only did he break the laptop, but he did it on purpose, causing irretrievable data loss. Also, the bonus he was awarded for stealing from me in the past was taken away and transferred to me. It was true the manager's laptop was ruined, but after that, I took some time to tackle the repair, and eventually I made it work again. My colleagues saw me do it too, and the manager thanked me, recognizing my effort. After Ari was fired, his actions spread in the industry, and he wasn't hired anywhere. He took a night job at a gas station, where he belonged.
I'm Martha, a housewife and married to Jesse. I worked full-time before I got married, but Jesse had a strong desire that I become a housewife after we got married. His income was way lower than what I used to make, but as long as we're modest, I thought we could make a living. I liked cooking anyway, so after I became a housewife, I made a decent, complicated dinner every night for my husband who worked all day. In the beginning, he complimented my cooking often, but after 2 years, he gradually changed. He started to treat me like a maid. Also, I barely had any money to spend for myself, but he said,
"I won't forgive you if you use my money for yourself. When you go to a salon or something, use your own savings.
I realized he's the type who doesn't feed the fish he catches, yet it wasn't easy to get a divorce if I realized that. I thought about the faces of my friends and relatives who came to our wedding, and my family who accepted my marriage to Jesse, and I couldn't go for it just yet. He didn't care how I felt about it, and his attitude escalated. One day I got an invitation to a class reunion and asked him for permission to attend it.
You are a housewife. Do you think you're allowed to go using my money? You're here just to cook for me.
His answer was absolutely not, but I begged him for permission because I haven't seen my friends since high school. But he said,
You go and I'll divorce you.
So I reluctantly gave up. On the reunion day, my close friend called and asked me what time I'd be there, so I told her I couldn't go. She asked me why, so I told her the truth, and she said, I'll apologize to your husband together with you later, so come on, let's go. So I decided to go and left the note for Jesse. I quickly got ready and ran to the meeting place with my friend. Suddenly a car ran a red light and hit me. I don't remember anything afterwards. I was lying in a hospital bed when I woke up. I felt severe pain on my forehead and my back, and I realized I had been hit by a car. My parents were beside me, looking into my face. They looked serious.
Oh, you're awake. Oh, thank goodness.
They shed tears because they were so relieved. My dad called the doctor loudly.
Doctor, she's awake!
A doctor came into the room and told us,
Good news, she'll be all right.
They said that I'd be back to normal in 4 weeks and needed to be hospitalized for a while. There seemed to be no after effects from the accident, but I was still traumatized from it. But my parents were supportive.
We're here for you. We'll support you until you're healed.
When they left the room, Jesse came in. He asked,
How long are you gonna be here?
I'm not sure. They said I'd be hospitalized for a while. Then Jesse changed his attitude and got angry.
Seriously? Damn! I'll be back tomorrow.
And he left. He came back the next day.
How much longer are you gonna lie there? You come home and cook for me now, or I'll divorce you!
And he left a piece of divorce paper, which he had already signed. His wife had a car accident and was in the hospital. You come home and cook for me now. I've never heard such heartless words. I hadn't recovered yet and didn't have the energy to argue. But that was the moment I came to my senses and wanted a divorce. He also said,
If you don't come home by tomorrow, I'll divorce you! You have to arrange the discharge by then!
Then he just ignored me and went home. Even though it hurt, I got up from the bed and started filling out the divorce form, and my parents walked in. Dad was startled and said loudly,
What are you doing? Are you filing for divorce?
Honey, keep your voice down.
They asked me what was going on, so I told them everything about us, Jesse's countless verbal abuses, and what our marriage was like. They were sympathetic to me and agreed with me about the divorce. They were willing to talk to Jesse's parents and the people around us on my behalf while I was in the hospital. They were so angry with Jesse that they had to go to his parents' house right away. They lived in a rural area where I visited only once. While they went to see Jesse's parents, I got permission to leave for a few hours and went to the city hall to file the divorce paper so that I could tell him it was a done deal the next time he showed. When my parents arrived at Jesse's parents' house, they explained what had been going on and about our divorce without stepping inside the house. My dad is a loudmouth, but he was emotional and was even louder, drawing the attention of neighbors. After hearing them, Jesse's parents apologized, but Dad was furious.
I won't forgive anybody who hurt my daughter!
They didn't accept the apologies and left. When Jesse came in next time, he looked upset.
Why did you lie to my parents that we got divorced?
So I told him that I signed and filed the paper.
You must be joking! What the hell did you do that for?
So I said, It was you who brought it up. I won't go back home. Then Jesse's parents came in and his father grabbed Jesse and said,
How could you do this to us?
Followed by his mother,
You ruined our lives.
What are you talking about? Calm down! How could we calm down?
And he explained to us, my parents went to his parents' house and my dad told them what Jesse had done to me loudly. That spread fast among the neighbors, in the country where the people knew each other well. And one of the neighbors was his company's president, the president who had a business relationship with my dad. Afraid of getting terminated from the contract with them, he decided to transfer Jesse's father. Jesse's father was soon to be retired and was shocked by losing his trust in the company where he had worked for many years. He decided to resign voluntarily. He said to Jesse,
It's all your fault.
and Jesse said,
I didn't accept it. She went ahead and submitted the paper.
But his parents said it's all his fault and declared to cut ties with him. After that, Jesse apologized to them many times, but they didn't accept it. After being abandoned by his parents, he suggested we forget about the divorce and get back together. But I already decided to go back to my parents' house after discharging from the hospital. I never wanted to go back to that life of being degraded as a maid, so I told him no, clearly. Once he lived by himself, he realized how hard it was to manage household finances with his income, and he missed my frugal but decent home cooking. He sent me messages like,
I was out of my mind. I realize now how good a wife you were. Let's start over.
Of course, I ignored them all. He seems lonely living alone frugally. I knocked on the door of the company I used to work at before getting married to see if there were any openings. They welcomed me back, and I was happy to be back too. When I healed completely and got used to my new lifestyle, my friend organized a reunion again. I was grateful for their gesture and happy to attend it. I met my childhood friend, Finn, there and discovered that we had much in common. Divorce opened a door for me. Finn and I started dating, and I remarried him 2 years later. He's a kind soul who cares about me, and I grabbed the chance to be happy again. I am leaving the painful memories with my ex behind and starting a new chapter. We're 4 years into our marriage. 2 years ago, the house of my mother-in-law was burned to the ground, and my mother-in-law, Donna, lost her home. We let her stay temporarily in the apartment I bought when I was single. We were in our 30s and reluctant to live with in-laws, but her house was lost in a fire, and she was alone. We tried to help her. It was meant to be temporary, but she started making excuses, like having recurring nightmares of fire or being depressed. She showed no sign of looking for an apartment or job. Sometimes she said she hurt and had a cast on her arm. She always had plenty of excuses. She ate and drank things I bought for me and gave my balance ball to her friend without telling me. But those are small complaints, and she didn't cause big trouble. Her husband had passed away, and we couldn't just kick her out. But as we were sympathetic and helpful, she started to take advantage of it. One day, my husband Sonny and I had to work overtime. He called me around 10 p.m. suggesting we stay at the hotel for the night. He said when he got home, the lock had been changed and he couldn't use his key to the apartment. He called his mother, of course, but she didn't answer the phone. It was late at night and he didn't want to make noise, so he suggested we stay at a business hotel, and I agreed. Donna usually wakes up at 5 a.m., so we returned home around 5:30 to find her sweeping the entrance. As she saw us, she was going to close the door, so we stopped her and questioned her. Both of us knew it was her who changed the lock.
What are you doing, Mother?
Why did you come back? I decided to live here alone.
What are you saying? What were you thinking?
We let her stay here, and now she was talking like we were the freeloaders. We couldn't really talk rationally when she said,
Please, leave me alone anyway. You two will go and find a place to live. I'll send your stuff later.
Then she literally tried to shut us out, so Sonny raised his voice.
Did you forget? This apartment belongs to my wife. How come you think you can decide things like that?
But she said when we got married, my apartment became his and his thing became hers, a logic that doesn't make sense to anybody. I was going to say something to that, but Sonny said,
Just ignore her.
And we went inside. But the next moment we were shocked to see the living room.
What
happened? The couch was half melted and the walls were blackened. There were air fresheners scattered around.
Did you do it again?
What? You mean fire? Did he just say again? Donna looked away like a child who had been caught doing something bad. Sonny took his phone and called his aunt Millie immediately. Millie arrived half an hour later and took Donna away. When Donna saw Millie, she ran and hid somewhere like a kid.
I won't do it again. Please forgive me.
She finally said sorry to us, but Sonny told her coldly,
Don't come back here.
Millie said she would make her pay for the damages and apologized to us many times. When they were gone, now Sonny apologized to me. He said it was Donna who caused the fire in her house by smoking a cigarette in bed. Once it ignited the bed linen, it spread throughout the house in no time, and nothing could be done. This time, the sprinkler located above the couch prevented the worst from happening.
I talked to her when she came here and she said she quit smoking, so I thought it'd be all right. Besides, the appliances here were all electric.
He lamented and apologized to me again. That was shocking to hear, but she lied to him too, so I didn't think it was his fault. That was shocking to hear, but she lied to him too, so I didn't think it was his fault. A few days later, Millie brought Donna to apologize to us. Donna said sorry like a scolded, frustrated child. Sunny was about to yell back at her, but the next moment she froze to hear what Millie told us. "I'll make sure she pays for all the damage." Then Donna said she didn't have that kind of money, but Millie continued to say that she would rearrange their mother's inheritance and give that to us instead of Donna. Sunny's grandmother is famous in town for her longevity. She's well over 90 and still alive and well. Millie knew Donna had no money and wouldn't make that kind of money to fix the house if she worked part-time. Donna was panicked to hear the idea and yelled and complained at Millie, but seemed like it was a done deal already. I thought that was a little harsh, but Sunny agreed and accepted, and Donna was more upset. This time's incident really got to Sunny. It was our favor to let her stay here in the first place. Not many wives would agree to live with in-laws, but I let her stay without arguing. Then she changed the lock of the apartment to shut us out and almost burned my apartment down, yet she still showed no remorse. Sunny said he would break off relations with her. Donna, on the other hand, after apologizing to us, she was going to come back and live here again. She yelled at him, "Are you going to abandon your own mother?" But Millie was on his side. She told Donna, "You will pay for the consequences." Millie said they came here to tell us that and left dragging Donna with her. They arranged quickly, and the inheritance money that was originally arranged to be awarded to Donna was transferred to Sunny's bank account as a gift during lifetime. That covered well enough to fix the damages, and for the temporary stay at the hotel during the repair, Donna messaged Sunny many times demanding her money back, but she never showed up. Millie took Donna by force to the countryside where their mother lived. They prepared an old apartment for her so she couldn't come back to us, since Donna couldn't drive a car. Of course, she didn't have money to travel back, nor did she know how to get here. So I didn't think she would show up here again. She is spreading to everybody that Sunny and I took her inheritance, but all the relatives knew about her smoking habit and the fire at her house, and nobody was sympathetic to her. I guess she became too comfortable here with us while I did all the cleaning, laundry, and cooking, which cost nothing to her. Now she's reduced to living in an old apartment and has to do everything by herself. She still wants to see Sunny because once he saw how she lives now, she believed he would take her back, but he says he is done with her. Unfortunately, if she asks us for help again, I don't think I can fulfill her wish. Thanks to Millie, our life was back after our apartment was completely repaired as if it was newly renovated. I also had fire insurance, so that was extra helpful. But without Millie, I don't know what we could do with the situation. Donna may have a hard time for a while, but after all, she started the fire. My name is Melissa. I was blessed with 3 children who are my treasure. I'm a full-time housewife, and every day I have my hands full with raising my 3 beautiful kids. I didn't have any complaints with my husband, Michael, and our children were also the cutest. However, in my life, there was just one thing that was troubling me, and that was that my sister-in-law and father-in-law would often come over to the house and bully me. My husband came from a family of investors. My father-in-law was an old-school type that cared a lot about education. His whole life, he solved everything with his job and money. And that's why when his son Michael didn't go to college after graduating from high school and chose to become a hairstylist, and as his wife, he also didn't think highly of me either. On the other hand, my sister-in-law Karen graduated from a top-class university, but she struggled to get a job after graduating and was never able to find a decent job. After that, she was messing around for years, and she finally got married just before the age of 40. But perhaps because of her spoiled personality, her husband must have become fed up with her, because they recently got divorced. Right now she lives at their family house with her parents and her child, but every now and then they would come over to our house and bully me. Every single day I was being verbally and physically abused by these two. My husband, Michael, didn't know about any of this. They would make fun of me for being a full-time housewife, but there was a reason why I wanted to continue being that. That's because my husband said that he grew up with parents who were always working and never around, and he didn't want his own children to grow up feeling the same loneliness that he felt. Ever since my husband was a little kid, he was raised by the family helper. That's why, to this day, he said that he's never felt the love of his parents, and he always struggled to see happy families around him. On top of that, it felt like being a full-time housewife matched my personality. My family raised me with good home skills. My mother always told me to never compromise on the things that you eat and your surroundings at home. So even though I got married at the young age of 22, I had enough household skills that I didn't have any problems becoming a wife. My mother-in-law was impressed by those household skills to the point where she would sometimes come over and ask me to teach her how to cook. Despite the type of people that my sister-in-law and my father-in-law were, my mother-in-law was a polite person who was always kind to me. When it came to sewing and doing things by hand around the house, she was particularly complimentary. Sometimes when she would come over, I would teach her how to make clothes and we would make them together for my kids. My mother-in-law was learning these household skills from me, but that was because she wanted to teach her daughter how to do the chores after her failed marriage. That's why my mother-in-law was working so hard to learn, but I think it was already too late. My sister-in-law was too busy messing around with the savings of her family money, and she doesn't do anything around the house, nor does she take care of her own child. I feel so sorry for her daughter, I can barely stand it. My father-in-law was the same. To this day, he doesn't know the importance of love and affection. I remember one time when my sister-in-law's daughter said that she wanted to have meatloaf, he went to the department store and bought an expensive meatloaf for her. But to be honest, I don't think that that's what a little girl like her wanted. Among all of those problems, there were still other things that were troubling me, and that was, in particular, was what my sister-in-law would do. She would often come over to our house unannounced, and then she would steal things out of my house. It's not like my sister-in-law didn't have any money, but because she had zero household skills, she wasn't able to prepare anything herself for her daughter's school. So things that most parents would prepare for their own children by sewing it themselves, she would steal the finished handmade items from my house.
Oh, perfect! You have a shoe bag. I'm gonna take this with me.
Even though she normally raises a hand and becomes physical with me or verbally abuses me, she just wanted to look good in front of others. And since she couldn't sew anything herself, she would take the things that I made and steal as much as she wanted. Of course, that was irritating, but all of these things I could easily make again, so I try not to let it bother me too much. The biggest problem was that she would steal the food that I had cooked for the family. There was actually one more reason why I insisted on being a full-time housewife, and that's because our middle child, my son, was born with an illness. Because of the medicine that he had to take, he wasn't able to digest certain preservatives or processed foods, and that's why I handmade everything that would go into my children's stomachs from scratch and raw ingredients. Of course, I told my sister-in-law multiple times that even if she were to steal things from my house, that was the one thing I wanted her to stop. However, every time I would talk to her, she would say,
"Oh, please, it's just some food. Why do you have to complain about it so much? This is exactly why peasants are such a pain to deal with. You're so cheap, even when it comes to food. It's almost like you're a beggar."
Even though she was the one coming into my house and stealing whatever she wanted, my sister-in-law didn't have any guilt over it, and I was so frustrated with her. My daily life with my husband and my children was full of happiness, but the presence of my father-in-law and my sister-in-law was such a struggle that I could barely tolerate it. However, days like this suddenly ended one day. It all happened one evening when suddenly my mother-in-law came over to my house. But this time she wasn't alone. She was with my sister-in-law's daughter, our niece. Because it was the middle of the night, my husband and I jolted awake when the doorbell rang. I jumped out of bed and ran towards the front door, and we were shocked to see the two of them standing there. We welcomed them into the warm living room, and my mother-in-law started to tell us what happened. I had already heard that my sister-in-law recently got a new boyfriend, but apparently she discovered that she was pregnant with this man's child, and they were going to be getting married. If that was all there was to the story, it should have been a good thing, but to our disbelief, my sister-in-law felt that the child with her ex-husband was in the way. So even though it was the middle of the winter and it was snowing outside, she threw her daughter outside of the house alone. Because there was a young girl crying outside in the freezing cold alone, one of the neighbors found her and took her in. The neighbor happened to know my mother-in-law, so she put her in her car and brought her over to my mother-in-law's house. My mother-in-law immediately took her granddaughter to the hospital. Because she was thrown outside in the freezing cold without a jacket, she was on the verge of hypothermia. After being treated by the doctor, she said they drove over here. To make matters worse, when she got in touch with my sister-in-law, she had no regret and said,
"Huh? What's the big deal? It's not like she died or anything, so it's fine, right? But also, that actually would have been better anyway, because that kid is just getting in the way of my happiness."
Apparently that's what she said, and my mother-in-law said that she could feel the blood start boiling in her veins. I can't believe that. How awful. How can anybody do something like that to their own child? Up until that moment, I had tolerated my sister-in-law taking whatever she wanted from my house, even the food. And that was because if it meant that my niece would be able to smile by having those things, then it would be fine. And yet I couldn't believe that she would do something like this to her very own daughter. On top of that, apparently my father-in-law didn't care about what happened to his niece because she was a girl. And he told his daughter that she could just throw her out, and all they had to do was put her into the child care center. I feel so sorry for her, so please forgive me for driving over here without calling you first, but is there any way that just for now, you would be able to take her in and care for her as part of your family? Of course we will. That's a given. Oh, please don't worry. We will look after her and take good care of our niece. I didn't think twice, and I said yes. Of course, my husband felt the exact same way as me. From there, my husband and I adored our niece as if she was our own daughter. I cooked food for the 4 kids, and I gave her as much affection and love as I possibly could. Because the kids were family and had played together as cousins, she got along with them quickly and seemed to enjoy every day with them. On the other hand, my mother-in-law said she could no longer tolerate her daughter and her husband. She said that she was going to take them to court, and she started making moves. I had thought all these years that my father-in-law was the investor in the family, but it turns out that he had married into my mother-in-law's family. The family house and all of the land was actually under my mother-in-law's name. That's why she served her husband with divorce papers, and she kicked both her daughter and her husband out of her house. The only reason why the two of them were able to live a life of luxury was thanks to my mother-in-law, so to be kicked out by that person herself meant that there was no future for them. Apparently my father-in-law was complaining and refused to sign the divorce papers. But my mother-in-law was so furious that she refused to listen to a single thing he had to say and quickly threw him out. My sister-in-law was also complaining that as the daughter, she shouldn't have to be treated like this, but my mother-in-law told her that she was going to be disowning her. And with that, she said that they were no longer family. She was no longer her daughter. After that, because my sister-in-law had abandoned custody of her daughter, my mother-in-law helped us to officially adopt our niece and gain full custody of her. At the same time, my mother-in-law changed the inheritance so that all of her family assets would go to my husband and I. Normally, there was money from the inheritance that should have gone to my sister-in-law, but it was already too late for them. When Michael's father and sister found out about that, they threw a tantrum at us, but my mother-in-law chewed them away again. They must have forgotten that all of the rights belonged to my mother-in-law and had gotten carried away with their lives. But they did this all to themselves. After that, the two of them lost everything, and even though up until now they had lived their lives without any struggles whatsoever, they had to move into an old, run-down apartment. For the record, my sister-in-law's fiancé found out that she had thrown out her own child in the freezing cold and tried to kill her, and he called off the engagement. My sister-in-law was so devastated by that she became depressed, and I heard that she had a miscarriage. I do feel sorry about that, but she was the type of person that would willingly leave her own child out in the freezing cold. So I couldn't help but to think that that child was better off not being born to that woman. The next time the soul of that baby returns, I'm sure it will be blessed with a better mother. My sister-in-law was only ever thinking about herself from the very beginning until the very end. After that, she no longer had any money, nor did she have a partner. She tried to get a job, but of course her personality hadn't changed and she would get fired immediately. I heard that these days she and her father are practically living like homeless people. My father-in-law had also been living a good life up until now and didn't know how to be humble. And he wasn't able to find a job, so now he's just living deeply in poverty. Both of them can take that. After that, my mother-in-law moved in with us, and we all began living happily as a family of 7. Of course, along with our niece, who became our 4th daughter. Because she now has me and my husband and my mother-in-law, we're not going to let our daughter have to feel that kind of sadness ever again.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.